During war times, there was a fella that went away to work, and his boys was in the army, and so he was working for a fella, and this fella hired a woman to help work, and he got to joking her and telling her that he is a single man and was a widow. And so the girl was about 18 or 19 years of age, this woman's daughter, and she said, well, I have an awful nice looking girl. This fellow says, well, maybe that would suit me just right. The girl would. Said, I'm a widow and haven't but 3 children, and I'd like to see the girl. The old lady said, all right. Said, you can see her. And so this fellow went to her place, and the girl was making a hand pocketbook out of bottle corks. Fellow sat down on the porch and talked with the old lady a while, and the girl was back in the back room, so she was talking to the outside to him. And he said, I believe I'll go in and see how this pocketbook is coming. See how the good pocketbook she's making. So the mother said, all right, and this fellow goes in and speaks to the girl. She speaks to him and invites him to have a seat. Well, he goes in and has a seat with her and sat there and talked with her right smart while. And he asked her about getting a date. And so she said, well, now you'll have to ask Mother. Well, this fellow said, I'll ask your mother. So he goes out and says to this girl's mother, said, what about me coming to see your girl? Well, she said, you're too old to go with that girl, and her that age. This fellow's about 60 or 65 year old. And he said, well, now, you have been a young man's slave, haven't you? She said, yes. I said, which one had you rather be an old man's darling or a young man's slave? Why, she said, I'd rather be a young man's slave. But said, my girl, I'd rather be an old man's darling. Well, this fellow said, I'd make a darling out of her in place of a slave. So it goes on, and a few days, and this fellow goes back up again. He says to the girl, said, what do you think about me coming to see you? Well, she said, come ahead anytime you want to. Said, my mother will have nothing to say about my business. Said that I'm 18 and I'm able to take care of my own business. So this fellow said, all right. And he goes ahead to see this girl and went with her for 3 or 4 years. And finally the girl and him had a falling out. He says to her, he says, now, said, you can take a good look at me. Said, this will be your last time that you'll ever see me. And she said, no, it won't either. Said, I'll come to see you whether you come back to see me or not. And the fellow said, all right. Said, go ahead and come anytime you want to. So the girl, she comes to see the man and finds his woman and a whole bunch of children there. She says to him, said, I thought you told me you wasn't married, that you was a widow. Well, he said, I have been a widow, but I'm not now. Said, I'm married now. Well, she said, why didn't you tell me that you was married? He said, why didn't you find it out? Said, you're not supposed to take a strange man's advice. Said, you're supposed to know a man before you go with him. And she said, no. Said, a man is supposed to tell you the truth. I said, you show me a man that'll tell you the truth, and I'll show you a man that's walking around without any head on. Every man is single as long as he's 5 miles from home, and when he's at home, he's wanting to be single. Well, she said, if that's the way of it, said, I'll believe nor trust no other man.